Hey, shalom, brothers and sisters. Welcome back. I thank you again for joining me today. Hey, look, today I want to talk about the mysterious fig tree that Yeshua cursed. Many scholars even to this day, wonder it's mysterious. They wonder what meaning is this? Why did he do that? And there might be a plausible explanation for this. And I've come across this, I guess you'd say, theory off and on a couple times in the past, and I just want to relate it to you because it popped up in another article that I was just studying, and I think it might shed some light, a possibility. But anyways, I wanna read this article to you, and I'll leave it up to you to decide. It's what do you call food for thought or something. But anyways, here it goes. uh, the word Bethphage, which is a village by Mount of Olives. The word, and I'll get to that. I'll get to what I'm getting at right here later on in the article. But the word Bethphage means the house of unripe figs. There were two symbolic reasons for naming this priestly village by this name. It will be remembered that in the Garden of Eden, there were two trees that Yahweh specifically selected for the attention of Adam and Eve. One was the tree of life, and the other was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Our first parents partook in this latter tree, and they were then expelled from the garden for this sin, as the first sins ever committed by mankind. Uh, what type of tree was this that Adam and Eve partook of? While many different types of trees have been guessed, the pomegranate, the date, the grape, and even the apple, the only tree mentioned in the context of Genesis describing the fall of Adam and Eve is a fig. It is to be noted that as soon as Adam and Eve knew they had sinned, they sewed fig leaves together to hide their shame. It is well documented among the Jews that this was understood to be the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And here's a couple things right here from the Talmud. What was the tree of which Adam and Eve ate? Rabbi Yoshi says it was the fig tree. The fig whereof he ate, the fruit opened its doors and took him in. And that's the Midrash Bereshith Rabbah 15:7. Next one is the fig leaf which brought remorse to the world, and that's 19 and 11. The tree of which the first man ate, Rabbi Nehemiah says it was the fig, the thing wherewith they were spoilt, yet were they redressed by it, as it is said, and they stitched a fig leaf, and that's in the Barakoth 40a, and also see Sanhedrin 70a. In the non-canonical book of Adam and Eve, chapter 20, verse 5, it says, I sought a leaf to cover up my nakedness and found none, for when I ate, the leaves withered off every tree in my plot except for the fig. And from it I took leaves and made me a girdle, even from the tree of which I ate. Thus, the fig tree is believed to represent the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Some might ask at the juncture, what difference does it make? Granted, it may seem like an exercise in futility and unnecessary speculation, but this would be a mistake. The fact is, the symbol of the fig tree as being the evil tree in the Garden of Eden figures in a prominent episode that occurred during the week just before Yeshua was crucified. Once the symbolic meaning of the fig tree is recognized, then this special event can make a great deal of doctrinal sense in regard to the role that Yeshua played in expelling sin from the world. I am talking about the time when he saw a fig tree on the Mount of Olives as he was approaching Jerusalem, and he cursed it. This fig tree would have been very near, if not directly adjacent to the village of Bethphage, which means house of unripe figs. Before that day was over, that particular fig tree was withered up and completely dead. This was a remarkable figurative meaning of it. 4 days before his crucifixion, Yeshua left Bethany and started walking towards Jerusalem. When he was near the summit of Mount of Olives, opposite Bethphage, he noticed on the side of the road a fig tree. He went to it, and finding no figs on its branches, yet the trees were covered with leaves, he cursed that fig tree and said, "Let no man eat fruit from you henceforth forever." And his disciples heard it. And that's Matthew chapter 11, verse 14. The cursing of that particular fig tree has baffled men ever since. Truth is, even Mark said that it was not the season of figs, and that's in verse 13. Indeed, difficulty in understanding the curse of Yeshua went further than that. It was not even the time for fig trees to have leaves. It has puzzled people for generations why Yeshua was so upset with a fig tree that by nature should have not had figs or leaves. It is certain that the whole event was a miracle from start to finish. To produce a sign of this nature must have involved a great deal of symbolic importance. If it were not of major significance, then the event makes a little sense, and certainly there would be little relevance for its occurrence. But it does have symbolic meaning. The fact that the fig tree had leaves was in itself a miracle, because leaves would not have naturally been on the fig tree for at least a month later. Also, there should not have been any figs on the tree. Since the tree was located on a main thoroughfare into Jerusalem and with a heavy population around the city at that Passover season, it is not to be imagined that Yeshua expected to find a few dried figs of last year's crop on the branches. The tree would surely have been stripped clean of its fruit. Yeshua must have known that he would not find any figs on this unusual tree. The truth is, however, the lack of figs and the abundance of leaves were important factors in this miraculous occurrence. In this scene, we are provided with the most important symbolic teaching by Yeshua with his actions. It will figure in with his crucifixion. Note that the next day after Yeshua cursed the fig tree, the disciples found it withered. That's Matthew 11, 20 and 22, and you look it up in Matthew chapter 21, verses 18 to 21. What was significant about this? It meant that the type of tree that Adam and Eve first ate, which brought sin and death to them, and in an extended sense to all humanity, was now withered and dead. Tradition had it that the only tree under Adam's care in the Garden of Eden that did not shed its leaves after our first parents took of the fruit was a fig tree. It was a tree of knowledge of good and evil. But with this miracle of Yeshua on the Mount of Olives, it meant that symbolic tree was now withered and dead. It signified that no longer would the type of tree be in the midst of humanity to encourage mankind to sin in the manner of our first parents. But there was even more teaching. It meant that when Yeshua went to that miraculous tree looking for some figs to eat, like Eve did, Yeshua could not find any whatsoever. This signified that there was not going to be a repetition of what Eve and later Adam did in regard to the fig tree that they partook. One fig tree was the instrument of bring sin into the world, but the Son of Yahweh could not find any figs on the tree, and it was typical of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Yeshua cursed that symbolic tree at the top of Olivet so that no man would eat of it again. And to complete the victory over sin, a short time later, Yeshua was going to be sacrificed for the sins of the world just a few yards away from this withered and dead tree. What Yeshua was doing in the last week of his life on earth was acting out a symbolic victory over all the factors of the Garden of Eden around which our first parents failed. The tree of knowledge of good and evil is now withered and dead. But there was a second symbolic meaning to the withering of the fig tree. There was a village of priests called Bethphage, which is a house of unripe figs, alongside that withered tree. And Bethphage was where the Sanhedrin met for special sentencing, especially that dealing with whom they considered to be a rebellious elder who needed to be excommunicated. And why was this priestly village called Bethphage? It meant the house of unripe figs. The Jewish authorities understood that the tree of knowledge of good and evil, from which Adam and Eve ate, that brought sin into the world, was a fig, not an apple. Adam and Eve took leaves from that very tree from which they ate to hide their nakedness from Yahweh. But in the case of the Sanhedrin at Jerusalem, at Bethphage, they were supposed to act as Yahweh's judges, and thereby they were supposed to be rendered free of sin and all their adjudications. This is probably why they named the village of Olivet the house of unripe figs, because at this place of the court there were supposed to be no ripe figs available to tempt the judges to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, like was the case with Adam and Eve. So that's the end of that article right there, and it's kind of fascinating. Why did Yeshua do that? Why did he curse the fig tree and cause it to wither and die? Well, there might be a connection, a good possibility, a connection with Adam and Eve and what this article says, and it's just fascinating. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Comment below. Let me know what you think about this. I'll be very interesting to have a dialogue or hear what you guys have to say, and feel free to watch my other videos, and also give me a big thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I thank you again. I really thank you guys for watching my other videos and this video, and hopefully future videos, of course. And until we meet again, brothers and sisters, peace out and shalom.